There are words that pass through the air like dust, forgotten as soon as they are spoken. And there are words that move through the unseen corridors of creation, shifting substance, stirring the invisible ethers into form. These are divine words, living vibrations that do not die, but continue to echo in the chambers of manifestation until their command is fulfilled. The two-word key of wealth belongs to this sacred category. It is not a mere utterance, it is a decree that awakens the slumbering forces of provision waiting within your own soul. When spoken with faith, these words cease to be sounds, they become spiritual authority made audible. In the realm of the unseen, speech is not sound but power. The universe itself was called into existence by the spoken word. Light was not built, it was declared. The firmament did not struggle to form, it responded to command. Every blade of grass, every breath of wind, every coin that changes hands in this world is still governed by that same eternal law. What is spoken in alignment with divine order must take shape in the visible world. When one grasps this truth, the two-word key ceases to be a phrase and becomes an instrument of creation, a scepter of spiritual royalty. Most people speak from memory, habit, or fear. Their words carry the vibration of worry, and so their lives return to them that same echo. I can't afford this, they say, and the law obeys. Money never stays with me, they mutter. And money, being obedient to the sound that gave it shape, departs. They do not realize that their own tongue is the gatekeeper of their fortune. Divine wealth is not denied to them, it is waiting at the threshold, halted by the very sentences that bar its way. For every word is a seed, and every seed bears fruit after its kind. The soil of consciousness cannot grow poverty and prosperity in the same furrow. The harvest comes according to what has been planted by the speech of the soul. The power of divine words is not in their volume or eloquence, but in their vibration. The two words of wealth carry a specific frequency, a note that harmonizes with the rhythm of infinite supply. When they are spoken from the lips of one who believes, they summon that frequency into form. To speak divine words is to tune one's consciousness to the pitch of abundance itself. You do not chase wealth, you resonate with it. You do not beg for prosperity, you call it forth because you recognize it as already yours in the invisible realm. The great secret of creation is that the universe hears tone, not language. The same phrase spoken from fear is powerless, but when spoken from faith, it becomes command. Divine speech begins in silence, in that sacred pause, where thought stills and the heart listens. When one becomes quiet, the current of divine life rises from the deep, filling every cell with remembrance of its source. Out of that stillness, when the words are finally spoken, they are no longer human but celestial. They carry the imprint of heaven, and heaven never returns void. To understand the power of divine words, one must recognize that words are not just descriptions of reality, they are architects of it. Every sentence you speak drafts a design in the invisible substance of your world. When your language reflects lack, your design collapses under its own contradiction. When your language mirrors divine completeness, the design becomes self-sustaining. The two-word key, therefore, is not a wish but a blueprint. When uttered, it sets in motion the architecture of plenty, and the outer world rearranges itself to match the inner drawing. It is said that the wealth of heaven is infinite, but it is speech that opens the vault. You may labor for years, plan endlessly, or strive with anxious effort, yet without alignment of word and spirit, no true increase comes. Wealth built on fear crumbles because it was called into being by divided speech. One part belief, one part doubt. The universe obeys the dominant vibration, not the spoken intention alone. Thus, to use divine words, one must first purify the inner voice. No whisper of unworthiness can remain, no echo of fear can distort the tone. The two-word key must be spoken as truth already established, not as hope yet to come. Imagine the early morning when the world is still half asleep. The first light touches the window, and the air is filled with quiet expectancy. In that moment of stillness, when the noise of human effort has not yet begun, you speak the two words. They fall softly, yet the unseen world trembles. For the divine current recognizes its own vibration returning home. Angels, opportunities, ideas, and invisible allies begin to move, rearranging circumstances, clearing pathways, dissolving delays. What was once blocked becomes open, not by force but by resonance. The true alchemist of life does not try to change the world by action first but by sound. The divine word is vibration clothed in breath, and breath is the movement of spirit. When you speak divine words, you do not beg reality to shift, you remind it of its original design. You awaken the dormant perfection lying beneath appearances. A garden may look barren in winter, yet the seeds beneath the soil have not died. They await a command, a quickening tone that says, now. The two-word key is such a tone. When spoken, it does not add something new to your life. It awakens what was already there, waiting to blossom. Many souls cry out for abundance while still affirming lack. Their prayers rise from the valley of fear, and the echo they receive is of the same tone. Divine words cannot be mixed with anxiety. To use them, one must ascend to the mountaintop of certainty where faith is quiet and absolute. On that height, there is no questioning of whether it will work, there is only knowing. And knowing is the mother of manifestation. When you speak from that height, the words do not travel outward, they travel inward, striking the hidden chord of your being. Then the external world, being but a mirror, begins to reflect the harmony you have established within. Every master of manifestation has known this truth in some form, that the universe is a vast echo chamber, responding to the tone of consciousness. Speak divine words, and divine echoes return. Speak of shortage, and shortage becomes form. Speech is the instrument of power, and power follows attention. When the mind is fixed upon wealth as divine, speech follows naturally, and the body, the environment, and even time bend to accommodate that command. There is a holy rhythm between word and result. Sometimes it seems the delay is long, but in truth, the vibration is building. Just as a musician must wait for the resonance of a note to fill a hall, so too must the speaker of divine words allow the unseen to harmonize with the seen. Faith is that pause between declaration and manifestation. It is not emptiness, but sacred expectancy. Those who understand this never speak their words twice in desperation. They speak once, with calm authority, and then they rest, knowing that the law of creation cannot fail. If one could perceive the invisible after speaking divine words, they would see light moving, threads weaving, unseen workers assembling the fabric of the new reality. What was spoken in the quiet of one's room is already known in the farthest reaches of the universe. It travels not as sound but as command, rearranging events, drawing forth opportunities, magnetizing people and places in perfect sequence. This is the reason why idle words are warned against. Every utterance carries seed power. If spoken in jest yet believed in fear, even jokes become laws to the subconscious. To use divine words rightly, one must approach them with reverence, as a priest would approach the altar. The lips must be clean of complaint, the heart unburdened by bitterness, the mind emptied of confusion. Then the words fall, like pure light, into receptive soil. To speak them is to enter partnership with the infinite. It is to take one's place not as a beggar of blessings but as a co-creator with the source. The two-word key thus becomes the door through which heaven's abundance walks into form. This is the hidden power behind divine words, that they are not magic but law, not poetry but vibration. They move not because one wishes them to, but because they align perfectly with the eternal pattern of creation. When the two-word key is spoken from that alignment, every current of the universe rushes to obey. You do not make wealth come, you recognize it as already present, and by your words, you invite it to appear. There are moments in life when the tide shifts, not because of chance, nor fortune, nor some outer intervention, but because something within finally awakens to its own power. The month becomes different, not because of dates or calendars, but because your words have changed. A single sentence, a new vibration, can turn what seemed stagnant into flow, what felt delayed into divine timing. This is the mystery of conscious speech, that destiny itself can bend to the tongue that speaks with spiritual authority. The turning point is never outside you. It begins the instant your words stop repeating your fears and begin declaring your truth. Most people live in the echo of their unconscious declarations. They speak of lack, limitation, delay, and difficulty, not realizing they are describing their own reflection. Life, ever faithful, mirrors back exactly what has been said. The mouth becomes the pen that writes the script of one's reality. When speech is careless, life appears chaotic. But when speech becomes conscious, deliberate, holy, and aligned, it calls forth order where there was confusion, wealth where there was want, peace where there was worry. The difference between delay and deliverance is often only a change in word. To speak consciously is not to force reality, but to align with it. Conscious speech arises when one recognizes that every word carries the weight of creation. The tongue, once thought ordinary, becomes the wand of manifestation. A single declaration, if born from awareness, can close the old chapter and open a new one. This is why those who awaken to this truth often speak less, not from timidity, but from reverence. They know the sacredness of sound, the creative fire behind syllables. They weigh each word as though it were gold, for in truth, it is. When speech becomes conscious, the month before you transforms into sacred ground. Every day becomes an altar, every conversation a ritual. You begin to notice the subtle power in what you affirm. To say "I am provided for" is not just comfort, it is command. To declare "all things work in my favor" is to rearrange the unseen forces toward your victory. Conscious speech removes the chaos of contradiction. It makes you a single tone ringing clear through the universe. The two-word wealth key, when spoken consciously, gathers this clarity and directs it like light through a magnifying glass, burning through doubt, igniting manifestation. The unawakened mind uses words to describe what is. The awakened one uses them to declare what shall be. When speech rises from fear, it multiplies fear. When speech rises from truth, it multiplies blessings. This is why the wise guard their language so fiercely. They do not casually say they are broke or unlucky, for they know that such words, once released, begin to gather proof of their own truth. Conscious speech, on the other hand, makes no statement it does not wish to see made flesh. It speaks life into all things, even those that appear barren. It calls the harvest, while the field still looks empty, and because it believes, the field responds. Every new beginning is born through a spoken word. It was so at the dawn of the world, and it remains so now. To turn your month into a not month turning point, you must choose your words as one chooses a seed. A careless gardener scatters weeds and wonders why the soil resists. A conscious one plants with intention and patience, knowing that the earth, like the universe, never refuses a sincere command. When you speak consciously, your words fall into the soil of divine law, and the harvest becomes inevitable. The only question left is whether you will speak in alignment with truth or continue rehearsing illusion. There is great humility in conscious speech, for it requires awareness of every tone, every hidden motive behind the words. You cannot speak abundance while secretly believing in lack. The vibration will betray the fear behind it. To speak consciously means to cleanse the heart before opening the mouth, to let every statement rise from faith rather than frustration. Only then do words become alive. Only then can they call forth new beginnings. Conscious speech is also listening. Before one speaks the two-word key, there must be stillness, a deep listening for the divine rhythm already moving through the moment. You do not invent power, you align with it. In the silence, you feel the current of infinite supply humming beneath thought. When you speak after touching that current, the words carry weight. They become infused with substance. They cease to be personal wishes and become universal decrees. The soul does not need to shout to be heard by the universe. A whisper of truth, spoken consciously, travels farther than 1,000 anxious prayers. Many wait for the world to prove its generosity before they dare to change their words. But the law works in reverse. The proof follows the proclamation. It is the declaration that opens the door, not the evidence that allows permission. Conscious speech trusts this invisible sequence. It says, I am wealthy, not because it sees wealth, but because it knows wealth as reality already formed in spirit. It says, this month unfolds in miracles, not because signs have appeared, but because the declaration itself is the sign. The moment one speaks it, the unseen begins to obey. The old language of limitation has ruled long enough. Each sentence of complaint, each expression of doubt, builds another wall around possibility. Conscious speech is the hammer that breaks those walls. The two-word wealth key, spoken from awareness, is like sunlight entering a room long shuttered. It dissolves shadows that seemed permanent. The air changes, the atmosphere brightens, and what once felt impossible begins to move toward you with quiet certainty. The shift may appear sudden, but it was born from the day your speech changed. Conscious speech does not mean forced optimism or hollow affirmation. It is not about pretending. Pain does not exist. It means recognizing that truth is greater than appearance, that divine order is stronger than chaos. When you speak from that knowing, your words stop echoing your problems and start announcing your solutions. You become the herald of your own transformation. The turning point is not an event, it is a tone. The moment your speech harmonizes with divine order, reality must turn to match it. You may notice how, in times of deep despair, one's words become heavy, slow, repetitive. They circle the same wounds. But when awareness enters, even the same mouth begins to speak differently. Gratitude replaces grievance. Assurance replaces apology. This shift in language is not small. It is seismic. It signals that the spirit within has reclaimed its authority. The universe, always listening, responds as though a new command has been issued, and indeed, it has. Conscious speech is the declaration of spiritual sovereignty. Imagine beginning this month with full awareness of your speech. Every morning, you awaken and speak deliberately into the silence, not words of routine but words of power. This month unfolds in perfect abundance. All channels of supply are open. Everything moves toward my good. These are not incantations. They are alignments. They tune you to the frequency of what already exists in spirit. The world cannot help but rearrange itself around such unwavering tone. You will see coincidences, meetings, sudden opportunities, all reflections of your inner decree. Conscious speech does not require struggle. Once the words are spoken, your task is not to labor but to remain consistent. You must not contradict the declaration with complaint or worry. The law is exact. What you affirm and what you deny cannot coexist in harmony. So, guard your speech, as you would guard a flame in the wind. Let no careless phrase extinguish what sacred words have kindled. In this quiet discipline, power grows. This month becomes your turning point, not because of effort, but because of utterance. The two-word wealth key, when spoken consciously, carries within it the energy of 1,000 possibilities condensed into one vibration. It does not need to be repeated endlessly. It needs to be believed completely. Conscious speech is not about quantity of words, but the quality of spirit behind them. Speak once, from certainty, and the law begins to move. When consciousness rules speech, timing itself bends. What once seemed far begins to approach. Doors that appeared sealed open with ease. Circumstances soften, obstacles dissolve, and people arrive in perfect sequence. It is as though the world recognizes a new command has been issued and rushes to obey. You stand still, in the midst of it, watching reality reshape itself around your words. This is the quiet majesty of conscious speech, that it turns not only your month but your life into sacred movement toward fulfillment. When your language becomes aligned with divine truth, every spoken sound becomes a bridge between the invisible and the visible. The month no longer follows habit or history, it follows the vibration of your word. You have spoken, and therefore creation must respond. The two-word key of wealth, when uttered from that level of awareness, does not echo, it unfolds. There is an eternal rhythm between the seen and the unseen, a silent correspondence that binds every thought to its reflection, every word to its consequence. This law does not sleep. It watches, listens, and mirrors. Whatever is spoken within becomes the pattern of what appears without. The law of correspondence is simple yet profound. As within, so without. The outer world does not argue, reason, or decide. It only reflects the inner state faithfully, like a flawless mirror. If the reflection displeases you, you do not blame the glass, you cleanse the face before it. Most souls wander through life unaware that their circumstances are only echoes of their own vibration. They pray for change, but continue to hold the same inner tone that produced the very conditions they wish to escape. They speak of lack, while inwardly feeling fear. They seek abundance, but remain loyal to the language of limitation. The law of correspondence responds not to what one wants, but to what one is, to the true state of consciousness hidden behind every word. The lips may utter affirmations, but if the heart whispers doubt, it is the heart that the law obeys. This is why the transformation of speech begins with the transformation of thought. Words alone cannot deceive the universe. They are only carriers of vibration, and their true power is determined by the consciousness that sends them forth. If one speaks the two-word key of wealth while inwardly clinging to worry, the outer world will reflect the worry, not the words. But when the heart is pure in faith, and the words are spoken from knowing, the correspondence is instant. The invisible and the visible stand face to face, in perfect harmony, as cause and effect. The law of correspondence is not punishment or reward, it is precision. It is the divine mathematics of manifestation, exact in its operation. When the inner tone changes, the outer form must follow. The universe does not resist correction. It eagerly adjusts to any new vibration that replaces the old. The moment you speak from divine consciousness with full faith, authority, and calm certainty, you send out a new blueprint into the ethers, and the old conditions begin to dissolve like mist before the morning sun. The outer world cannot hold shape against the pressure of a renewed inner decree. To understand this law deeply, one must stop seeing life as happening to them and begin seeing it as happening through them. Every experience, whether bitter or sweet, is a letter delivered from one's own consciousness. It may arrive disguised as chance or circumstance, but it carries your own signature. The world around you is not an enemy or a test, it is a reflection. When you understand this, you stop struggling to fix the mirror and begin refining the image within. You no longer fight shadows on the wall, you turn toward the light that casts them. The law of correspondence reveals that wealth is not earned by effort alone, it is magnetized by alignment. To live in abundance outwardly, you must feel abundance inwardly. You cannot hold fear of loss and attract gain, just as you cannot play discord and expect harmony. The vibration within becomes the melody of the life you hear. The two-word wealth key, when spoken in alignment with this law, becomes a tuning fork that resets the frequency of your being. You no longer seek prosperity as something outside. You recognize it as your own reflection, patiently waiting for recognition. Many souls cry out for more money, more opportunity, more ease, yet their thoughts continue to affirm less. They plant seeds of lack in the soil of the mind, then wonder why the harvest is small. The law of correspondence cannot be fooled. It will return to you only the crop that matches the seed. If the inner language says, "I never have enough," the outer life, ever faithful, replies, "As you wish." But if the inner decree becomes, "I live in infinite supply," the same law bends the world to agree. The mirror never argues. It reflects without resistance, without delay, without favoritism. This law, once grasped, ends all confusion about destiny. Life is not random. There are no accidents in the realm of cause and effect. Every event is a correspondence, a match, a note echoing the vibration that first gave it birth. Change the vibration, and the echo changes. The universe cannot resist a higher tone. It must harmonize. Thus, when you raise your consciousness to the level of abundance, every circumstance around you begins to rise with it. The people you meet, the ideas you attract, the opportunities that unfold all correspond to the frequency you now hold. The outer life is a garment woven from the threads of inner belief. If the pattern displeases you, do not curse the cloth, change the design. The weaver is your consciousness. Every thought is a strand, every feeling a color, every word a knot in the fabric of experience. The law of correspondence simply delivers the finished tapestry. When you begin to speak from divine awareness, when your words echo the harmony of spirit, the fabric rewrites itself before your eyes. Situations shift, doors open, burdens lift, not because the outer world suddenly becomes kind, but because it can no longer mirror the lower vibration you once held. To live under this law is to live in reverence. You become careful not only with your speech but with your mood, your expectation, your inner dialogue. You begin to notice how quickly thoughts translate into form, how even passing emotions seem to ripple through your affairs. You realize that nothing is trivial in the realm of correspondence, that every inner gesture finds its outer companion. Gratitude brings gifts, irritation brings delays, joy attracts ease, and fear summons obstacles. The law makes no moral judgment, it simply fulfills the vibration it receives. The wise, therefore, train their inner world as a gardener tends a sacred garden. They uproot the weeds of complaint and replace them with the flowers of faith. They water gratitude daily, knowing that every drop nourishes the soil of manifestation. They speak their two-word key with awareness, not as repetition but as revelation. Each utterance becomes a pulse of divine power sent into the invisible, carrying the exact image of what is believed. The outer world, receiving this pulse, cannot help but respond in likeness. When one truly lives by the law of correspondence, fear disappears, for nothing seems accidental anymore. There is only reflection. The moment you change the thought, the mirror must change. You no longer feel victimized by circumstance. You recognize yourself as the artist shaping experience. Even the challenges that arise are seen as mirrors of forgotten thoughts, waiting to be transformed by new understanding. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and begin saying, "What belief in me has called this forth?" That question opens the gate to mastery. The two-word key of wealth, when spoken under this law, becomes a call to alignment. It summons not only money but harmony, not only opportunity but order. For wealth is not merely the accumulation of things, it is the reflection of completeness. When you feel complete within, the outer world rushes to mirror that wholeness. Money becomes the servant of consciousness, not its master. Opportunities flow as naturally as breath, because the inner world no longer vibrates with resistance or scarcity. There is a sacred stillness that follows the understanding of correspondence. You no longer beg for manifestation, you allow it. You no longer chase results, you cultivate causes. You know that every word you speak, every image you hold, every belief you entertain is already shaping tomorrow's form. The power has always been in the inner realm. The outer is only its obedient shadow. To master the law is to master the self. To speak from divine awareness is to command creation itself, not with arrogance, but with quiet certainty. When you realize that the universe is a mirror, you cease to ask for reflection and begin to polish the lens. You learn to look within before every declaration, ensuring that your words rise from truth, not fear. You understand that you cannot declare abundance while secretly fearing loss. for the vibration of fear will always outweigh the sound of words. The heart must be clean before the mouth can be powerful. When they align, when thought, feeling, and speech move as one, the law of correspondence responds instantly. This is why miracles appear effortless to those who live in harmony with this law. What others call luck is simply correspondence. They have spoken, felt, and believed from a single vibration, and the universe, in perfect obedience, has matched it. The same law that keeps the stars in their courses governs your affairs. It does not recognize small or large desires, only vibration. It brings forth the likeness of what you hold. When your words are filled with certainty and your heart anchored in faith, the outer world cannot help but manifest abundance, for it is compelled to correspond. The wise learn to bless even their smallest words, for they know each syllable carries seed power. Every declaration is a command to the unseen, every whisper an order to creation. When you bless your words with faith, the law of correspondence engraves them into the structure of reality. The phrase you speak in the quiet of your room today may appear tomorrow as opportunity, friendship, increase, or peace. The connection is unseen but unfailing. The invisible root always produces the visible fruit. To live consciously under this law is to recognize that heaven and earth are not separate. The divine realm and the human world are mirrors reflecting one another endlessly. When the upper world is acknowledged through faith, the lower world responds with manifestation. The two-word key of wealth is a bridge between these realms, a sound that aligns the spiritual and the material. Through it, your inner recognition of infinite supply finds its correspondence in outer abundance. There is no struggle, no effort, no chase, only reflection. Faith is the unseen current that moves worlds. It is the invisible magnet that draws the unseen into form, the silent pull that turns thought into substance. To understand faith as magnetism is to understand the living law of attraction at its highest level, not as wishful thinking or emotional intensity, but as divine certainty, the knowing that what is desired already exists in spiritual reality. Faith does not plead, and it does not chase, it recognizes. It stands still, knowing that all things are already completed in the invisible and only await permission to appear. When faith is steady, it becomes magnetic. It draws people, opportunities, and resources without struggle. There is a difference between hope and faith. Hope looks forward with uncertainty, faith looks inward with assurance. Hope desires, faith declares. Hope waits, faith knows. When you speak the two-word wealth key from faith, you are not sending a request to the universe, you are summoning what already belongs to you. The magnetic field of your consciousness expands, and everything that vibrates on the same frequency begins to move toward you with divine precision. There are no coincidences under this law. The magnetic power of faith is exact. Every human soul carries an inner magnet, yet in most, it lies weakened by doubt. The pull is faint, scattered, unfocused. But when faith rises calm, unwavering, absolute, the magnet awakens, its field becomes radiant, and the invisible substance of the universe begins to organize itself around that field. Ideas flow, meetings align, money moves, doors open, paths appear. It seems miraculous, yet it is the natural result of alignment. Faith is the magnet of the spirit, and wealth is its obedient reflection. To build this magnetism, one must first understand that faith is not emotion. Many mistake excitement for belief, but emotion fluctuates, while faith abides. Faith is still, like a mountain rooted in eternity. It is not dependent on evidence, it creates evidence. When spoken words rise from this inner certainty, they carry a frequency strong enough to reshape the physical world. The universe cannot resist the command of a soul certain of its truth. Faith does not shout, it speaks quietly and is instantly obeyed. In every life, there comes a point where reason ends and faith begins. Reason says, "There is no way." Faith says, "The way is already made." Reason sees lack, faith sees invisible supply. Reason argues, faith declares. The moment one chooses faith over fear, the magnet within reverses polarity. Instead of repelling what is desired through anxiety and striving, it begins to draw it through calm assurance. Faith is the great harmonizer. It aligns one's vibration with divine order, and in that order wealth must appear. When you speak the two-word key with faith, you are not repeating a formula but releasing a vibration. It is not the syllables that carry power, but the consciousness behind them. Each word becomes a spark, and faith is the current that ignites it. Without faith, the spark dies before reaching the unseen realm. With faith, it ignites the invisible ether and begins the process of creation. Faith transforms mere affirmation into command. It turns words from sound into law. Faith as magnetism can be felt. When one believes with complete certainty, the body relaxes, the breath deepens, and the heart feels at peace. This peace is not passivity. It is the stillness of alignment. It is the calm center of creation. From this stillness, magnetism expands. You no longer chase money, opportunities, or approval. You move through life as though everything were already arranged, because in truth, it is. The magnetic field of faith organizes reality. Every doubt weakens the field, every fear scatters the current, every complaint demagnetizes the flow. Faith restores coherence. It gathers every fragment of your energy and directs it toward the single truth that abundance is your divine inheritance. You need not earn it. You need only align with it. Faith is the alignment. It draws to you what already belongs to you by right of divine order. When the mind doubts, the magnet falters. When the heart fears, the current reverses. Yet even then, faith waits patiently in the center of your being, ready to be reawakened. You need only return to certainty, not through effort, but through surrender. Faith begins when striving ends. It is the quiet knowing that you are sustained, guided, and provided for by a power that never fails. The wealth you seek is already orbiting you, waiting for the magnetic pull of belief to bring it into view. The invisible substance of the universe responds to faith as iron filings to a magnet. Each particle of matter, each thought, each possibility feels the pull of conviction. Faith does not coerce or demand, it attracts through harmony. It says, "I am one with abundance," and abundance rushes to meet it, for likeness attracts likeness. The outer world mirrors the inner frequency, and that frequency is set by faith. To cultivate this magnetic faith, one must cleanse the inner atmosphere of disbelief. Doubt is static that distorts the signal. Fear is resistance that blocks the flow. The two-word wealth key cannot vibrate at full strength through such interference. You must speak from stillness, from trust, from the certainty that the invisible has already answered. The answer is always yes. Faith is the language that hears it. The magnetic power of faith is silent but radiant. You may say nothing aloud, yet the world begins to shift. People sense it without knowing why. Doors open. Invitations arrive. Circumstances soften. You have become magnetic to the good you have claimed. The law of attraction is not persuasion. It is correspondence between frequencies. Faith tunes you to the frequency of fulfillment. Once tuned, you draw its likeness naturally. Observe the difference between one who doubts and one who believes. The doubter moves with tension, speaks with uncertainty, plans with fear of loss. Their magnet is fractured. They push away what they desire. The believer moves with calm assurance. Even in the absence of evidence, their tone is serene, their eyes steady. Their magnet is whole, and the world bends gently to their faith. The difference is not in effort but in energy. Faith is the unseen geometry of success. Faith as magnetism also governs timing. When you believe fully, you release impatience. You know that what is yours cannot be delayed, and what is not yours cannot be forced. The magnet does not chase the needle, it waits and the needle comes. So it is with manifestation. Faith does not rush, it rests. This rest is powerful, for it signals absolute trust in divine order. When you are at peace, you emit the strongest magnetic field. The universe recognizes that peace as readiness and delivers accordingly. The two-word key, spoken from this rest, becomes irresistible. It is the vibration of assurance, a tone that calls forth completion. You do not need to repeat it endlessly or strain for emotion. One word spoken in full faith carries more creative force than 1,000 uttered in fear. The magnet of faith does not require repetition, it requires belief. When you truly know that the unseen is real, the seen must conform. Faith is not limited by circumstance. It can turn poverty into prosperity, sickness into health, darkness into light, because it operates from a plane higher than circumstance. The magnetic field of faith draws substance from the infinite, not from the visible. It does not depend on salary, market, or chance. It draws from divine supply, which never diminishes. When you speak from that source, every law of matter bends to assist. What seemed impossible becomes inevitable, not through struggle but through resonance. There are moments when faith must stand alone, when appearances scream failure and reason mocks belief. In those moments, the magnet is tested. But faith, once anchored, cannot be moved. It knows that appearance is illusion and truth is invisible. When you hold that knowing, the field strengthens. What was once resistance becomes fuel. What was once loss becomes preparation. The magnetic field of faith uses even the shadow to strengthen the light. To live by faith is to become a living magnet of divine supply. You carry an invisible radiance that draws to you all that belongs to your vibration. You may seem calm, even quiet, but the unseen world moves in response to your certainty. This is why those who believe deeply often experience swift manifestation. Their energy is unified, their vibration unwavering. The current of divine substance flows to them effortlessly because there is no obstruction left within. Faith as magnetism means you no longer ask whether your desire will come, you ask only whether you are aligned. The moment alignment is complete, the manifestation is inevitable. It may appear through one person or 1,000, through a sudden idea or a quiet unfolding, but it will come. For faith is the law of attraction made divine. It is not the wish that pulls, it is the knowing. When you know, the universe rearranges itself to prove you right. The wealth you seek, the opportunity you await, the peace you long for all are already magnetized toward you. They circle invisibly, awaiting your certainty. When your words, emotions, and beliefs unite in faith, the current strengthens, and what was unseen begins to move into view. You will feel the shift before you see it, a sense of ease, a warmth in the heart, a calm in the partner's mind. That feeling is the signal that the magnet has awakened. Faith is the bridge between the invisible and the visible. It is the power that translates the spiritual blueprint into material form. Without it, words are hollow. With it, they are divine commands. The two-word key of wealth becomes unstoppable when charged with faith, for faith gives the words body, breath, and vibration. When you speak from faith, the universe listens not to your mouth but to your energy, and it moves accordingly. Faith as magnetism is the law of divine attraction in its purest form, the silent knowing that nothing can be withheld from the one who already believes it is done. In the beginning of every miracle, there is silence. Before the seed breaks open, before light touches the earth, there is stillness in the soil, an invisible pause where power gathers itself. The same is true for the words that shape your destiny. The two-word key of wealth must rise not from noise, not from hurried repetition, but from the sacred silence that precedes creation. For in silence, the soul remembers its origin, and only then can speech become divine. Silence is not emptiness, it is fullness unspoken. It is the holy breath before sound, the waiting of heaven before a new world is called into form. When the mind is restless, words lose their strength. They scatter like leaves in the wind, carried in every direction, but rooted in none. Yet when silence reigns within, each word becomes an arrow, sharp and guided by spirit. The quiet heart does not speak from desire or fear, it speaks from knowing. The declaration that follows such silence carries the vibration of certainty. It does not plead for manifestation, it commands it. To speak before entering this inner silence is to send forth a word without soul. To speak after silence is to release a word alive with divine breath. The silence before declaration is not the absence of thought, but the purification of it. It is the clearing of inner noise, the worries, the doubts, the questions, until only awareness remains. In that awareness, the presence of divine intelligence can be felt. It is a still light that fills the inner chamber, and within it, every false belief dissolves. In that calm, you no longer wonder if the universe will answer, you realize that it already has. When you speak after such awareness, your word becomes law, for it rises from the same stillness that gave birth to the stars. This silence is not achieved through effort. You cannot wrestle the mind into peace. It must be surrendered to. You close your eyes, breathe, and allow the surface ripples to settle. Beneath the noise, there is always a deeper current, the river of divine life flowing silently through you. When you touch that current, you have found the birthplace of power. Every word spoken from that place carries the fragrance of eternity. It does not strive, it does not fear, it simply declares. In the material world, people rush to speak. They affirm without alignment, they command without calm. Their words are like sparks thrown into a storm, bright for a moment, but extinguished by the wind of doubt. Yet the one who practices silence before declaration gathers the elements first. They sit in stillness until every inner current points in one direction. Only then do they speak, and when they do, the universe listens. Silence is not withdrawal, it is preparation. It is the drawing back of the bow before the arrow of speech is released. The strength of the declaration depends on the stillness that precedes it. The archer who rushes the shot misses the mark. The one who waits until breath, focus, and body align never fails. So too, with divine speech, the silence before declaration is the moment of alignment. In that pause, your heart, mind, and spirit become one instrument, and the word you speak becomes infallible. In this quiet space, you realize that wealth, success, and abundance are not external prizes, but internal reflections. You do not call them to you, you awaken them within you. The silence reveals that everything you seek is already part of your essence. When you feel that truth, the two-word key becomes not a wish, but a remembrance. You are not asking for wealth, you are reintroducing yourself to it. The silence strips away the illusion of separation. It reminds you that what you desire is already connected to you, waiting for your recognition. The still mind is the throne of divine authority. From it, words become decrees, not desires. Each time you return to silence before declaring, you refine your power. The outer world becomes quieter, more obedient to your vibration. People respond differently. Events unfold more smoothly. It is as if the world has learned to recognize your tone, the tone that only silence can teach. This is not control, it is harmony. Silence aligns you with divine rhythm, and the universe dances to the rhythm you have joined. There is sacred discipline in waiting for the right moment to speak. The untrained soul speaks to fill space. The awakened soul speaks to shape space. Silence teaches discernment when to speak, how to speak, and when to remain still. Not every impulse is worthy of voice. Words spoken too soon are like seeds thrown onto hard soil, they cannot root. But words born from silence sink deep, finding the fertile ground of divine law. In stillness, you know when the soil is ready. The timing of your declaration becomes perfect because it is guided, not guessed. When the two-word key is spoken from silence, it carries the energy of divine timing. It does not compete with other vibrations. It harmonizes them. It is not shouted into the void. It is whispered into alignment. The universe hears whispers better than shouts, for whispers come from the core of being. Loud words often carry fear. Quiet words carry faith. The soul that has rested in silence before speaking no longer doubts its own authority. It has heard the echo of divine truth within and merely repeats it aloud. To live in this practice is to reverse the order of the world. The world teaches you to act first, think later, and perhaps reflect last. But divine order begins with silence, then thought, then speech, then manifestation. Every step follows naturally from the last. The silence before declaration is therefore the seed of all prosperity. Without it, the sequence is broken. With it, creation unfolds with grace. There is a sacred patience within silence. You may feel the urge to declare before you are ready, to speak before the vibration is pure. Yet silence will wait until your tone is aligned. It does not rush, for it knows the power it holds. Each breath in stillness strengthens your magnetic field. Each moment without speech draws more divine energy into you. When you finally speak, the words are not yours alone. They are infused with the current of infinite supply. The silence before declaration also cleanses intention. Many speak words of abundance while secretly longing for escape from fear. Silence exposes the motive. In stillness, you see whether your desire arises from faith or from lack. If it comes from lack, silence dissolves it gently. It replaces fear with remembrance of divine sufficiency. By the time you speak, your words no longer beg for something outside yourself. They affirm the truth already established within. Such speech cannot fail, for it declares what already is. The great paradox of silence is that it is louder than any sound. It vibrates beyond hearing, resonating in realms the ear cannot detect. The silence before declaration carries more force than 1,000 affirmations uttered in haste. It is the voice of divine order preparing to speak through you. When you allow this silence to fill your being, you become its instrument. Your declaration ceases to be personal, it becomes universal. You speak not as a person hoping for wealth, but as consciousness expressing its natural abundance. Silence also restores reverence. It reminds you that speech is sacred, that every word shapes destiny. When you sit in stillness before speaking, you honor that power. You no longer throw words into the air like coins into a fountain. You place them carefully upon the altar of creation. Each word becomes a prayer, each declaration an act of worship. In such reverence, the two-word key transforms from phrase to portal, a doorway through which heaven touches earth. The silence before declaration is therefore the true temple of power. Within it, the soul meets its source and remembers its inheritance. You cannot rush into that temple. You must approach it with humility and calm. The noise of the world must be left outside. Inside, there is only awareness, breathing, and the heartbeat of creation itself. In that sacred chamber, you hear the divine whisper, "All things are already yours." When you rise from that silence and speak, you do so as a creator, remembering the sound of the beginning. Every great transformation begins with this pause, the moment between inhale and exhale, thought and word, heaven and earth. It is the space where potential gathers before it bursts into motion. The one who learns to dwell in that space holds the key to mastery. For the universe does not answer noise, it answers order. Silence restores that order, aligning your inner tone with the divine blueprint. The declaration that follows is therefore not an attempt to create, but an act of revelation. Silence before declaration is the golden moment when the heart listens to the mind listens to the spirit, and the spirit listens to the infinite. It is the moment when separation disappears and unity becomes real. When you emerge from it, the words that leave your lips are not chosen, they are given. They do not reach upward for power, they descend from it. Such words carry light, and where light moves, form follows. This is why all true creation begins in quiet. The silence is the womb of manifestation, the unseen chamber where ideas gestate and form. To skip it is to birth something premature. To honor it is to bring forth perfection. The two-word wealth key spoken from that inner stillness contains worlds within it. It carries the authority of one who has heard the divine voice within and echoes it faithfully into the world. The silence before declaration is thus the hidden power behind every visible miracle. the sacred breath, before sound becomes creation. There are moments in life when everything shifts without effort, when what was once far suddenly draws near, when confusion melts into clarity, when time itself bends and brings the desired goods swiftly into view. This mysterious quickening is not chance. It is the law of instant alignment. The moment the inner and outer selves move in unison, the universe responds without delay. Instant alignment is the meeting point of consciousness and creation, where thought, feeling, and word become one vibration so complete that the world must rearrange itself to match it. It is not about speed but about unity, for in unity there is no distance between desire and fulfillment. Every delay in life is a signal of divided energy. The mind wants one thing, the heart another. The words affirm abundance, while the feelings whisper doubt. Creation cannot respond clearly to contradiction. It mirrors the confusion it receives. But when inner division ceases, when belief, emotion, and speech all hum, the same note, manifestation becomes instantaneous. The world is not slow, it is exact. It waits for coherence before it can obey. Instant alignment is that coherence made visible. It is the sacred moment when every part of your being finally agrees with divine truth, and the universe, relieved, rushes to deliver. To understand this law, imagine a tuning fork struck in a quiet room. The vibration fills the air, and any object resonating at the same frequency begins to hum in sympathy. Nothing is forced. The resonance is natural. So it is with manifestation. The moment your vibration matches the reality you desire, correspondence is immediate. The invisible begins to hum with your tone, and matter organizes itself accordingly. Time is not a barrier, only misalignment is. The instant harmony is reached, creation responds. The delay between asking and receiving is only the time it takes for alignment to become complete. Instant alignment does not mean rushing. It is not urgency. It is readiness. Rushing comes from fear, alignment from faith. Rushing says, "It isn't here yet." Alignment says, "It already is." The more you rush, the more you affirm absence. The more you align, the more you affirm presence. When you rest in the vibration of what you seek, it appears swiftly, because it cannot remain invisible to one who already embodies it. Instant alignment is the art of becoming what you desire before it manifests, of thinking, feeling, and speaking as though it were already done, because in truth, it is. The two-word wealth key functions only through this law. When spoken from misalignment, it is a hollow sound. When spoken from unity, it becomes divine command. The difference lies not in pronunciation, but in consciousness. You cannot say the words of abundance while secretly believing in limitation and expect results. The vibration must be one. When faith and feeling agree, even lightly spoken words ignite power. Alignment does not require effort, it requires agreement. The universe listens not to your mouth, but to your energy, and energy cannot lie. In the moment of alignment, you feel an unmistakable stillness. The mind stops questioning, the heart stops reaching, and a calm knowing fills the space where longing once lived. It is not excitement, it is peace. The outer world may not yet have changed, but you feel no need to check. The shift has already happened in the invisible, and you sense it as surely as breath. That inner stillness is the signal that creation has begun. The spiritual blueprint has solidified. The physical form is only a matter of unfolding. Many people attempt to manifest through repetition, repeating affirmations, rituals, or prayers without ever achieving alignment. They speak the words of wealth while vibrating the energy of worry. They ask while doubting, and so they receive a mixture of both. But the moment they stop repeating and begin resonating, everything changes. One word spoken from alignment outweighs 1,000 spoken from effort. It is not the number of times you declare, but the wholeness with which you declare it that creates results. Instant alignment begins with awareness. You must first see where your energy is divided. The mind may claim faith, yet the body carries tension. The lips may affirm abundance, yet the heart clings to fear. The soul cannot pour power through a vessel split by contradiction. You must become single, single in purpose, single in tone, single in certainty. Every thought and feeling must echo the same truth, that divine supply is already yours. When the echo is pure, manifestation is instant, because nothing within resists it. To align instantly, one must remember that all creation exists now. The universe does not create in time, it reveals in time what already exists in eternity. Your desire is not waiting to be made, it is waiting to be seen. Instant alignment is the act of seeing it clearly, of lifting your vibration to the frequency where it already resides. When your inner eye perceives it as done, the outer eye soon beholds it. There is no process, only recognition. Manifestation is revelation. This alignment happens in the silence between thoughts, in the breath between doubt and faith. It is that moment when the heart suddenly believes without reason, when a quiet voice within says, "It is done." You may not know how, but you no longer need to. You have entered the field of divine certainty, and within that field, time collapses. Every element of the universe begins to move in orchestration toward the physical realization of your inner knowing. Circumstances shift with grace, paths open effortlessly, ideas arrive like morning light. The movement is gentle, yet unstoppable. Instant alignment also means release. You cannot hold doubt in one hand and manifestation in the other. To align is to let go completely, to stop asking, to stop testing, to stop waiting. The aligned soul does not chase proof, it becomes proof. It lives as if the promise were already fulfilled, and that living vibration becomes its magnet. The invisible cannot resist embodiment when belief has taken full residence in the soul. The energy of alignment is magnetic stillness, not frantic motion. It does not reach outward, it draws inward. The wealth you desire, the opportunity you seek, the peace you crave, they begin moving toward you. The instant your inner tone becomes a match, you do not summon them through force but through recognition. The vibration of abundance is already everywhere. You simply tune to it by releasing contradiction. Once tuned, manifestation is not created, but revealed. In the moment of true alignment, even the body changes. The shoulders drop, the breath deepens, the heart warms. These physical shifts are the signs of agreement between the inner and outer worlds. The energy that once scattered in anxiety becomes focused, radiant, coherent. It is as though every cell of your being turns to face the same direction toward truth. That coherence is what makes alignment instant. The universe needs no time to respond when the entire being speaks with one voice. Instant alignment is the divine equilibrium, where effort dissolves. It is not something you do but something you allow. It occurs naturally the moment resistance ends. Imagine a river blocked by stones, remove the obstruction, and the flow resumes immediately. You do not have to make the river flow, it always was. So it is with abundance. It is always moving toward you. Your doubts were the stones. Remove them through faith, and the flow becomes instant. The alignment of thought and word is the bridge between spirit and matter. When you say, "I am abundant," and feel the truth of it through every fiber of your being, you activate the law of correspondence and the law of magnetism at once. The declaration is no longer affirmation but recognition. Recognition is instantaneous, because it does not need to convince it knows, and what is known in spirit cannot remain hidden in matter. In moments of alignment, even perception changes. You begin to see opportunities that were always there but invisible to the eyes of worry. You notice how events seem to move in your favor, how the right people appear, how doors open just before you knock. This is not coincidence. It is the universe revealing what your vibration now permits you to see. The world has not changed. You have tuned to a clearer frequency. Alignment adjusts vision as much as reality. When the two-word key is spoken from alignment, its sound pierces through the layers of resistance that once delayed results. It travels like light through clear glass, unobstructed, pure, immediate. The universe, ever responsive, mirrors back the tone with speed and precision. Instant alignment is not miraculous because it is rare. It is miraculous because it is natural. It is the original language of creation, the return to oneness, where desire and fulfillment are the same breath. Time is only the distance between thought and belief. The greater the distance, the longer the manifestation. But when belief catches up to thought, when what you desire and what you know merge, time collapses. Instant alignment is the union of these two forces. It is the soul saying, I no longer hope, I know. In that knowing, everything rearranges itself in your favor, because the universe is designed to obey certainty. The practice of instant alignment is not complicated. It requires no long rituals, no struggle to believe. It asks only for presence, full awareness of what you are declaring. Before speaking the two-word key, pause. Feel the truth of it within your chest. Sense the vibration of abundance already alive in you. When your body relaxes and your mind grows quiet, you have entered alignment. Speak then, and the word becomes alive. The secret of this law is that alignment cannot be forced. It must be remembered. You were born aligned, one with the divine current of supply and love. Every thought of lack, every fear of time or delay, created the illusion of distance. The two-word key does not create abundance. It reawakens the alignment that was never lost. The instant you remember this, manifestation becomes immediate, because the truth was never waiting, only you were. When you master instant alignment, you move through life with quiet assurance. You no longer wonder how things will happen. You know they already are. You speak less and trust more. You act not from urgency, but from inspiration. The world begins to respond to your stillness, your coherence, your faith. The people who meet you feel it, a peace that radiates, a confidence that calms. They cannot name it, but it is the power of alignment, the invisible harmony between your soul and creation, that makes manifestation effortless and immediate. There is a sacred moment in every soul's journey when one realizes that divine abundance is never the prove-it contrast. Earned, it is allowed. The struggle ceases, not because the battle has been won, but because the warrior has laid down the sword and discovered there was never an enemy. The illusion of effort dissolves, and what remains is quiet alignment with divine law. To live without struggle is not laziness, it is wisdom. It is the recognition that the infinite flow of supply has always been moving toward you, waiting only for the doors of resistance to open. Struggle is the closing of those doors. Allowance is their quiet unlocking. The world teaches the language of toil. From the earliest days, the mind is trained to believe that good must be fought for, that success requires sacrifice, that abundance is earned by exhaustion. Yet the divine law operates differently. It knows no strain. It does not reward fatigue. It gives freely, but it can only enter where there is receptivity. The hand clenched in fear cannot receive. The heart heavy with striving cannot hear guidance. The spirit whispers, "Be still and know." Allowance is that stillness. It is the quiet agreement between the soul and the source that says, "I no longer chase, I consent." To allow is to trust the invisible current. It means you stop trying to push the river and instead let it carry you. The current knows where to go. It bends, turns, and flows in perfect timing. The mind resists this at first. It believes that control equals safety, that planning ensures success. But control is the child of fear, and fear closes the channel through which divine flow moves. Allowance is surrender without defeat. It is the recognition that the infinite knows the way better than your limited sight. The one who allows does not become passive, they become guided. Action still happens, but it arises from inspiration, not anxiety. The absence of struggle does not mean the absence of motion. The universe is never idle. Stars are born, rivers carve canyons, trees grow toward light. None of these struggle, yet all fulfill their purpose. The oak does not panic about how it will become mighty. It allows the sun, the soil, and the rain to do their perfect work. So too with the soul. When you stop resisting the natural rhythm of divine supply, growth happens effortlessly. Wealth comes, not as conquest, but as consequence, the natural outcome of harmony. To move from struggle to allowance, one must first see that struggle is rooted in disbelief. It is the subconscious statement that says, I must make it happen because the universe will not. Every effort made from fear reinforces separation. You are not creating with the infinite, you are competing against it. That battle cannot be won, because it is based on illusion. The truth is that you and the source of all supply are not two, you are one. Allowance is simply remembering that unity. It is the return to ease, the homecoming to flow. When you allow, timing becomes perfect. The doors that once seemed locked open without force. The people you need appear at the exact moment you are ready. What once felt delayed is revealed as divinely orchestrated. The universe has never been slow, it has been waiting for you to stop pushing. The energy of struggle sends the vibration of resistance into the field. The energy of allowance sends the vibration of readiness. Life cannot deliver to one who is tense in waiting. But when you release the need to control, everything moves toward you naturally, as a magnet draws metal. There is great strength in softness. The mind believes only tension produces power, but the spirit knows gentleness contains the greatest force. Water wears down stone, not through violence but through patience. The quiet breeze moves ships that iron chains could not. The principle of allowance follows this same law. It does not push or plead. It moves quietly and persistently toward the inevitable good. Those who live in allowance appear calm, yet their lives move with extraordinary speed. Their peace is not stillness, it is divine coordination at work. Allowance begins in the body. Struggle lives in the muscles, in the shallow breath, in the clenched jaw and restless mind. When you begin to relax, truly relax, you are telling creation that you trust it. Relaxation is faith made visible. Each deep breath says, I release control, I allow life to unfold. The nervous system calms, and the spiritual current flows unimpeded. From this place of peace, new ideas arise. Guidance becomes audible. You sense what to do and when to do it, and your actions succeed because they are timely, not forced. Those who live in struggle often repeat affirmations and prayers without power because their vibration is rooted in effort. They are trying to make the law work rather than letting it. But divine law requires no assistance. It only requires harmony. The two-word key of wealth, when spoken from struggle, remains lifeless. When spoken from allowance, it becomes command. The words do not create, they release what was already waiting. You are not summoning prosperity, you are opening to it. The gold of divine substance surrounds you now, like air around a bird in flight. The bird does not struggle to stay aloft. It aligns its wings with the wind. To live in allowance is to live in the rhythm of divine ease. You still act, but your actions are infused with peace. There is no fear of outcome because outcome has already been decided by the vibration of faith. You move as one moves in a dance, guided by music rather than memory. Each step is natural, effortless, beautiful. When you begin to live this way, your entire being radiates calm assurance. People feel it. They sense the absence of tension and are drawn to it, for allowance carries the fragrance of divine certainty. Struggle arises from the illusion of separation, the belief that you are alone in creating your destiny. Allowance arises from unity, the knowing that creation flows through you, not from you. When you speak the two-word key in the state of allowance, you are not asking for something distant, you are declaring what is already here. The words do not travel outward in search of supply, they awaken supply within. The vibration expands outward, and reality bends to match it. In the state of allowance, waiting becomes sacred rather than stressful. You no longer fill the space between desire and manifestation with worry. You fill it with gratitude. Gratitude is the song of allowance. It says, I have already received in spirit, and I thank you before I see. That thanksgiving dissolves resistance faster than any act of will. It signals to the universe that you are ready to receive, and so the form appears. Gratitude is the bridge from unseen to seen, from prayer to possession. Every soul must learn that power and peace are not opposites. They are the same when seen rightly. True power moves quietly. It does not shout or strain. The most powerful forces in existence, gravity, love, faith, work without noise. Allowance is their language. When you learn to live in this vibration, you stop searching for signs and start embodying them. Your life itself becomes the sign of divine order at work. The more you allow, the more effortless things become, until you realize that what you once called miracles are simply natural outcomes of alignment. Even in apparent setbacks, allowance remains serene. The one who struggles sees obstacles as punishment. The one who allows sees them as direction. The river bends not because it is blocked, but because the new path is better suited for flow. So it is with divine timing. When something delays, it is not denial, it is orchestration. Struggle resists the bend, allowance moves with it. The calm soul says, all is well, and the current carries it swiftly to the greater good. Allowance requires humility, the letting go of the illusion that your personal will must do all the work. It does not remove effort, it removes friction. You still plant the seed, but you trust the sun and soil to nurture it. You still speak the word, but you trust divine intelligence to unfold it. The release of struggle does not make you powerless, it aligns you with the power that never fails. Every inspired act then carries a force far greater than personal effort could achieve. When you live in allowance, you begin to feel time differently. Days stretch with ease, and things that once took months happen in weeks. You realize that the universe is not measuring by clock or calendar, but by vibration. The moment you reach the frequency of your desire, it manifests. Struggle delays this by keeping you anchored in impatience. Allowance accelerates it by anchoring you in faith. You stop chasing results and begin embodying readiness, and readiness is the only true magnet for divine supply. The body knows when you have entered allowance. There is lightness in the heart, warmth in the chest, clarity in the eyes. The world feels softer, not because it changed, but because your perception did. The vibration of allowance makes even ordinary moments luminous. You begin to see signs of grace everywhere, small blessings, subtle coincidences, gentle confirmations. These are not accidents. They are reflections of your relaxed energy. The more you release, the more the universe can reveal. Allowance is the natural state of the soul. Struggle is learned, inherited from fear. The return to allowance is the return to truth. You do not have to earn what already belongs to you. You only have to stop blocking it. The law of abundance is constant. It does not fluctuate with effort. It flows continuously, and the one who learns to rest in that flow lives a life of quiet miracles. To allow is to align, and to align is to remember that all things are already complete in divine mind. The river is flowing now. You need only lift your oars and trust its direction. Every span of time carries its own rhythm, its own secret breath of purpose. But most people rush through their days unaware that each month is a sacred chamber, a cycle of becoming. It opens not by calendar, but by consciousness. The moment you choose to see time as divine, the ordinary unfolds into miracle. This month, the wheel of creation turns in your favor, not because fate has changed, but because your awareness has. When you begin to walk through your days as though every sunrise were an altar and every nightfall a benediction, you align with the hidden current that governs all increase. The divine calendar does not begin on a date. It begins the instant you decide to see this month as the turning point of destiny. A sacred month is not measured by the number of its days, but by the consciousness that fills them. Each dawn holds a new vibration, an opportunity to renew your tone and realign your word. The weeks unfold like chapters in a living scripture, each one revealing a deeper layer of divine order. The first week invites awareness, the awakening to possibility. The second invites faith, the trust that unseen forces are already at work. The third brings evidence, subtle confirmations that the invisible is becoming visible. The final week is harvest, the visible manifestation of the inner decree. This is not a superstition of dates, but a pattern of energy, the sacred rhythm through which abundance blooms. When you call this month your turning point, you do not beg for change, you initiate it. You declare that time itself serves you, that every day is a vessel for divine manifestation. The minutes become servants of your consciousness, carrying your faith into form. You stop moving through time as a victim of delay and begin walking through it as a master of rhythm. Time does not command you, you command time through alignment. The moment you declare this month sacred, the vibration of struggle begins to dissolve, and every day that follows answers to your word. To treat this month as sacred is to see each morning as a doorway to creation. When you awaken the world. Your first thought is not idle, it sets the tone for the hours that follow. The wise soul does not leap into motion, but begins in stillness. Before the mind remembers its tasks, the heart should remember its truth, that you are the co-creator of every hour you inhabit. When you greet the morning with gratitude and declare the two-word key in the quiet between breaths, you summon the day into divine order. The entire cycle begins to revolve around that tone, and the outer world mirrors the harmony within. This month becomes sacred when you refuse to see any day as wasted. Every moment is alive with purpose, even those wrapped in silence or waiting. The seed does not grow visibly for many days, yet beneath the surface, roots are forming. The unseen work of one day sustains the visible bloom of the next, so it is with manifestation. The sacred month is not a chain of results, but a dance of preparation, belief, and unfolding. To call this month a turning point is to trust the invisible process. You do not measure progress by what your eyes can see, but by what your spirit can feel. Time bends to belief. When you move through your month, as though abundance were inevitable, the days themselves begin to accelerate the arrival of your good. Each sunrise brings the echo of your faith. Each night closes with the imprint of your gratitude. The cycle of giving and receiving becomes natural, unforced, rhythmic. The more you bless the day, the more the day blesses you. Blessing is the currency of sacred time. It multiplies what it touches. When you bless the hours ahead, you magnetize them with power. When you curse them with complaint, you empty them of grace. The choice is always yours. This month, as sacred cycle, teaches that repetition is not monotony but mastery. Every morning is another chance to declare truth until it becomes your reality. You do not plant once and abandon the field, you tend it daily with words of faith and acts of gratitude. Each repetition strengthens the vibration as a heartbeat sustains life through rhythm. When you say the two-word key each day, not as demand but as remembrance, you weave continuity through time. The month becomes one seamless flow of manifestation, where each moment carries forward the strength of the last. To see the month as sacred is to rise above the illusion of delay. The ego measures progress by calendar and clock, but the divine measures by vibration. One day, lived in full alignment, is worth 1,000 lived in doubt. The month becomes transformative when each day is treated as completion, not waiting. You stop saying, "One day it will happen," and begin saying, "This day it is unfolding." The shift from postponement to presence is what sanctifies time. It transforms the coming month from habit to holy rhythm. There is also a cycle within your own spirit that mirrors the rhythm of the month. The first days awaken desire, the middle days strengthen faith, and the later days reveal the outer reflection. To rush this process is to pluck the fruit before it ripens. The sacred cycle requires patience, not because the divine is slow, but because alignment takes time to stabilize. Each day spent in faith refines the vibration, until at last, what was invisible condenses into form. You may not see change on the first or second day, but on the 12th or the 21st, a door opens, a message arrives, a chance meeting occurs. These are not random. They are the blossoming of seeds planted at the month's beginning. When you view your days this way, you stop dreading the passage of time and begin celebrating it. Every day brings you closer to the visible proof of your inner decree. The anxiety of when dissolves into the assurance of now. You no longer wake up wondering what will happen. You wake up knowing that the day will serve your divine good. Even challenges become sacred. If an obstacle arises, it is not punishment but refinement. It teaches you to hold your vibration steady, to keep declaring abundance even when appearances falter. In doing so, you prove mastery of the cycle, for the true test of sacred timing is consistency. When you make the month sacred, you sanctify routine. The tasks you once rushed through preparing meals, answering messages, tending work become quiet rituals of creation. You infuse each action with the vibration of peace. The smallest act becomes a prayer. You learn that the divine is not confined to meditation or moments of silence, but breathes in the ordinary rhythm of your life. Time becomes a temple, and you its keeper. There is a subtle beauty in realizing that your turning point is not an event, but an unfolding. It is not a single day circled on the calendar, but the cumulative vibration of many days lived in awareness. Each day contributes its tone to the larger symphony of the month. When one day falls into dissonance through worry or fear, you need only return to alignment the next morning. The divine conductor adjusts instantly, bringing harmony back to the melody. Nothing is lost. The month's sacred purpose continues, untouched by temporary discord. As you live in this awareness, you begin to feel that time is not passing but expanding. The days do not slip away. They unfold around you, generous and full. Each morning feels like a continuation of the last, a spiral ascending toward greater realization. The moments you once called ordinary now feel luminous. Even silence hums with expectancy. This is what happens when you consecrate time. It stops aging and begins awakening. The sacred month does not ask for struggle. It asks for presence. It asks you to walk through your days, not as a worker trying to force results, but as a witness watching divine order unfold. Each day is both seed and harvest, cause and effect, teacher and reward. The rhythm of creation becomes visible in your routine. Inhale and exhale, sunrise and sunset, word and manifestation. You begin to realize that the divine moves in cycles because the soul learns through repetition. Each month offers a new chance to embody the lesson more deeply, to create more consciously, to speak with greater faith. This month is not just a segment of time but a mirror of eternity. How you move through it reveals how you move through life. When you treat it as sacred, you treat existence as sacred. You understand that wealth, peace, and fulfillment are not someday blessings. They are daily vibrations. Every sunrise becomes a covenant between you and the divine, a silent agreement that says, "I will walk this day in faith." Each night closes with gratitude, sealing that agreement until the next dawn renews it. The turning point you seek does not lie at the month's end. It begins in its first breath, the instant you decide to see time as divine ally rather than obstacle. This month, the ordinary becomes holy, the routine becomes radiant, and every passing hour carries the fragrance of unfolding abundance. The law of creation moves in cycles, and when you honor the cycle, you honor yourself as its center. The wheel turns because you turn with it, and what was once repetition becomes revelation. The rhythm of divine order made visible in the quiet unfolding of your days. There comes a point in the holy turning of days when the air itself feels tender with completion, as if the month were a chalice brimming to the rim, surface trembling, light wavering at its edges. You have walked the weeks not as a wanderer but as a keeper of time, blessing mornings like thresholds and nights like incense drifting upward. What began as a vow has become a vibration. What began as a title has become a tone. What began as a hope has become a rhythm in your bones. This month, declared sacred, has been a quiet covenant with the unseen, a continual yes to the law that answers every faithful word with form, every faithful breath with movement. Every faithful silence, with revelation the arc of the days, has traced itself with gentle accuracy. Early hours taught you to listen. Mid-month taught you to hold. Late days taught you to witness. In this epilogue, you are not finishing. You are recognizing the pattern that was here all along, written like music within the marrow of time. The invisible orchestration has made itself audible. The soft resolve of your first dawn, the steady hum of your declarations, the hush that followed each surrender, the thousand small confirmations set like dew on the grass of ordinary hours. You asked for a turning point and discovered a turning you, a self that now moves with the wheel instead of clinging to its spokes. To call this the final is not to close a door but to name the ring of completion, the way a circle is final, not because it ends, but because it returns. Every loop in this month has brought you back to the same altar: word, breath, stillness, allowance. You have learned to treat time as a partner and timing as intelligence. You have learned that the two-word key does not shout. It gathers, as the sea gathers the river without argument, as dawn gathers night without struggle. The sacred cycle has revealed that creation is less an event than an atmosphere, less a strike of lightning than a constant field of power through which lightning easily travels when alignment opens the sky. Epilogue implies memory, and memory is devotion. Remember the mornings you rose before the noise could dress itself in your name. You placed your voice like a lamp on the threshold of the day, and watched how hallways of hours lit themselves without your pushing. Remember the afternoons when doubt rattled its bowl, and you chose to answer with gratitude instead of coins of worry. You learned that thanks multiplies what it acknowledges, that blessing is the law's favorite language. Remember the evenings when you almost said, "It's not happening," and instead whispered, "It is unfolding," and how, as if on cue, a message arrived or a person, or a thought that unlocked a door that looked like a wall 10 minutes before. The sacred cycle has taught you the geometry of increase. Intention as compass, silence as plumb line, word as beam, faith as foundation, allowance as open windows. You discovered that time is not a corridor you must hurry through, but a cloister you may walk, hand on the cool stone of each hour, listening to the echo of your certainty. Bounce softly down the nave. In that echo, you heard the truth. Manifestation is correction, not construction. The world rearranges to match the ornament already woven into the invisible. Each day, you removed a veil. Each veil revealed pattern. Each pattern made the next unveiling simpler than the last. There were moments when the wind changed and appeared to oppose you. You know now, it never did. It pushed the sail as well as tested the mast. It taught you to adjust without abandoning course, to become supple without becoming uncertain. The sacred cycle required this softness, not the softness of apathy, but of mastery, the softness that bends so it can carry forward more of the divine weight without breaking, the softness that makes strength a quiet inevitability. When you softened, the path became precise. When you resisted, the path became narrow. When you allowed, the path became yours. Epilogue is the art of naming the thread that held the chapters together. The thread was not a schedule, it was a stance. You stood inside your days as one stands inside a vow, and the vow held. You committed to speak from stillness, to choose the tone before the task, to bless the hour before you entered it. You learned that when tone leads, tasks obey. The errand meets you at the temperature of your word. The conversation ripens at the warmth of your intention. The account, the invoice, the opportunity, they all traveled, the current set by the two-word decree spoken from the riverbed of your calm. This final is a ledger of subtle profits. Count them without numbers. The calm that replaced fretting before your first cup cooled. The posture of your shoulders when a bill arrived and you experienced curiosity instead of contraction. The way you began hearing invitations inside interruptions, provisions inside surprises, pace inside pauses. These were not accidents. They were the first returns on your investment of attention. You tithed your focus to the infinite, and the seam. Infinite returned tenfold, in the form of ease, ideas, alignments, open hands, open hours, open doors. This month as sacred cycle taught you that accumulation is a byproduct, not a practice. Accumulation happens when alignment stabilizes. You did not chase coins, you cultivated coherence. You did not bargain with the field, you became its sound. The field loves one note sung purely more than 1,000 sung loudly. The more purely you sustained your note, the more the field harmonized. That harmony is the true prophet of the month. A heart that does not tremble with news, a mouth that does not contradict its own prayer, a mind that does not turn the key and walk away from the open gate it just unlocked. You also learn to recognize the difference between waiting and preparing. Waiting keeps checking the soil, preparing enriches it. You made a garden of your routines. You watered them with repetition that felt like prayer rather than penalty. You pruned stray phrases from your speech, the way a careful gardener prunes a branch that steals sap but bears no fruit. In return, the garden answered with blossoms not because you demanded it, but because you finally tended the one thing that always governed bloom, the climate around the seed. The epilogue honors the instruments that made the music. Breath that slowed the rushing thought, silence that gathered the scattered, faith that anchored the boat when fog was thick, and allowance that let the tide carry you farther in an hour than oars could have in a day. It honors the body that believed by relaxing, the nerves that chose trust over proof, the hands that reached when reaching was asked and rested when resting was wiser. It honors the invisible help that entered every room the moment you set your tone, for tone is invitation, and heaven is punctual when invited by certainty rather than panic. Call this final a seal if you must. But understand that the seal is wax, not wall. It fixes the impression of your learning, so the reality, the letter of your life can be delivered to the next address without smudging. You do not return to the beginning ignorant, you return crowned. The crown is not gold, it is composure. It glows not above the head but within the chest. Composure is the sign to the universe that you have learned the law's gate, that you will not rush ahead of its stride nor drag your feet behind it. Composure is readiness shaped like peace. As you stand at the threshold between cycles, notice how familiar the sacred tools have become. The morning lamp of your word, the noon shade of your surrender, the evening hearth of your gratitude. Keep them where they are. The room you have furnished this month is the room you will keep living in. There is no need to redecorate the foundations. Sweep what gathers that is not you. Dust what gleams that is. Open the windows when inspiration taps. Close them when doubt tries to weather your furniture with its storm talk. The simplest housekeeping is the greatest prosperity practice, when the house is consciousness and the furniture is faith. In this closing movement, allow yourself to perceive what the old eye could not. The difference between result and revelation. Results are items on lists. Revelation is a new way of seeing that keeps producing results without your managing them. You came seeking results. You leave holding revelation that time is obedient to tone, that supply prefers open windows to open hands, that the decree carries farther when it rises from silence than when it rises from strain, that the two-word key does not unlock something locked, but recognizes a door already ajar in the unseen hallway. You walk daily without naming. Let the ledger of this month also include the way you met other lives. The sacred cycle widened your generosity. Because lack no longer whispered in your ear, you could give without arithmetic. You discovered that giving is not subtraction but signal, a bright flare telling the field, more can move through, here. And more did. Conversations carried hidden envelopes. Introductions carried futures, folded neatly inside first names. Even refusals turned into redirections shaped like favor. The arithmetic of heaven is not plus and minus. It is flow and form. You allowed flow, form followed. Here in the hush of epilogue, acknowledge the one vow worth carrying forward unchanged, to keep time consecrated by tone. It does not require new hours, only a new habit of entering them. You know the entrance now. It is simple and sovereign, a breath, a stillness, a two-word decree spoken like flint against steel, a small spark, then the dry tinder of the day catching without smoke, without struggle, until the room of your hours is warm and lit, and work becomes worship, because presence has become your only method. Stand where you are in the wheel, and feel the roundness under your feet, the kindly gravity of a month that taught you to aid. Fall upward into order, to move without forcing, to receive without asking twice, to bless before counting, to align before acting, to rest before results, to recognize before requesting, to become the tone before expecting the echo, to treat every threshold as an altar and every altar as a doorway you step through again as the next dawn loosens its gold from the night and places it, softly, in your open palms,